Howdy y'all, my name is Travis and today I'm going to be talking on-screen takeoff. So for those of you that aren't familiar with takeoff, effectively all this is getting our quantities for the material on the job, for the labor on the job, just trying to understand how much. And a lot of us do this different ways, right? We might do it on the piece of paper, we print out the plans, it's all crumpled up. I do a little chicken scratch to get some numbers, and the next guy may not even be able to read it because my handwriting's so bad. You might also be using another system today too, but effectively what this update's gonna allow us to do is to move everything into one system. So we can have our plans in here, we can have all of our clean measurements, and then we're gonna produce our takeoff based off that. In addition, we're gonna have all of our files, our schedule, daily logs, everything all in one place, making it a true one-stop shop. So with all that said, I want to dive straight into it. Let's get going. So to begin, you're going to go directly into the plans tab on the job. It's going to look like a blank slate to begin, but what we're doing is we're going to upload our plans. And so you can copy these if these already have been uploaded into the files section, or you can just upload them directly. I'm going to click and drag from my other screen. This is an 8-page PDF, but what JobTread will do is split that into 8 separate pages. So each of these pages now can be accessed individually. So it doesn't matter if it was a 1-page file, if it's a 30-page file, we're gonna split that for you so you can dive into each of them, zoom in, see the details, pan around, and really understand the intricacies of the file. And also, we do support images as well. With that, I want to make one small note. At the bottom of each page, you'll notice the version history. So as new iterations to these plans come up, customer requests a change in size to a window or a door, just know you can upload a new plan here, which will replace this current page, and your measurements will carry over to the new page as well. So that's uploading of the plans. Let's now dive into the parameters. The parameters are going to live along the left side of the screen. I can enter new parameters here, or I can pull some from my catalog. They're pre-existing. But if I go to add a new parameter, notice the first 3 are the number, the pick list, and formula options. These are going to be manual entry type parameters, where the ones down below from count down, those are going to be the ones that I'm pulling directly from my plans by drawing in order to spit out those measurements. To very quickly define what these are, count is for counting things like studs, joists, and potentially outlets as well. Area are going to be area-based measurements, things like floors and tile and backsplashes, things of that nature. Area pitch is going to be factoring in an area drawing, but putting in a pitch for things like roofs. Area volume is going to be great for drawing on 2D plans, identifying an area, and then factoring in a depth to spit out things like cubic yards. Linear are going to be linear-based drawings for crown molding, trim, walls, things of that nature. Linear drop is going to be similar, but it's factoring in a drop, which is really good for electricians with electrical drops. Linear pitch is going to be a linear-based drawing, but factoring in a pitch. Things like the corners of the home, if there's like a pitch you need to factor in, this will allow you to do that. Linear area is going to be a linear-based drawing, but you factor in like the height of the wall potentially, which can spit out things like square footage. And then linear volume is great for things like footings, where you need to factor in both the width and the depth, but can spit out something like cubic yards. So that's a very, very brief explanation of those. Just to begin though, I want to start with the most basic of all, which is the count. This is very simple. I'm just counting, right? And let's just start with the example of electrical. So it works very similar to the budget where you have like a cost group, right? Think of it as a category, and then under that I might have, in this case, many measurements. So I'll add a measurement here, and let's just call it standard outlets, 220 volt outlets, GFCI outlets, and I'm just rattling off the things I'm going to measure. And let's just cap it with can light. So I have 4 measurements, all under electrical, and the beauty of this is that all of these individual measurements are going to total up to the electrical parameter as a whole. The value of that is back in the budget. I can reference any one of these measurements or the total. For electrical, maybe not that helpful, but when I'm talking about hardwood floors and I'm measuring across multiple plans, or tile across multiple plans, I can reference the hardwood floors within the first floor or the hardwoods for the whole house. So this is going to give you a ton of flexibility. But if I'm ready to measure here, I'm going to pop into my electrical plans. I'm going to zoom into the area I care most about, and to start measuring, just hover over the number that you want to measure and click. Now I'm in measure mode. You can see that here up top. And now I just want to count. So I'm going to just click on the things I want to count. So I'm measuring the standard outlets right now. Obviously, you would repeat this process for the whole home. I'm just going to stop at this one room, and I'm going to hit enter to stop my measurement. That's just one measurement. You can see here in the top left that is counting. It's totaling for the group as a whole as well. And let's say I want to move on to my can lights. I don't really want them all to be blue. Visually, I want the separation of color. So I'm going to move this one over to purple, and now I'm going to start measuring that. So 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to stop at 4 for now, hit enter, and again you can see I am counting per measurement, but then for the total for electrical also. So again, a lot of flexibility in how this is set up. Clearly, this is a very basic example of how the on-screen takeoff tool can work, and I'm going to get into more of the intended use of this tool, but I wanted to highlight a couple key features of the plans first. So you can go back to your plans, you can see most recent plans and skip directly to them, go full screen to give yourself more screen real estate. Right hand side, I can switch back and forth between the pan view, which is the click and drag and then zoom in and zoom out view, and then the select. So this allows me to select existing measurements and make modifications to them. There's a couple cool tools in there like copying measurements and things of that nature just to help speed things up. Also, along the right hand side, when you are measuring, you cannot do the scroll to zoom in and zoom out. So just know you have this feature to zoom out and zoom back in directly on the right hand side. And then we have all of our markup tools as well. So all those same tools you would find within your standard PDF and image files. You can draw on the plans, you can put annotations in there just to help whoever's looking at the plans understand them a little bit better. Please note that these do not interact with the measurements at all. So from there though, I want to move on to a more real life use case, and this all really starts back in the budget. So we're starting with a blank slate here, but based off the work that we just did, under the parameters list, we're going to see those electrical measurements that we had. So we have the electrical parameter with all the separate measurements down below it. But what I want to do is show you how you can build all of this in the catalog ahead of time and then go into the plans to start measuring, and that effectively can spit out the takeoff for you. So I'm going to start with a group called exterior siding. A very simple example. This has smooth hardy siding, the labor associated with installing that, brick, mortar, and then masonry labor. So just 2 types of siding and then the labor we would find with that. But the cool thing is that these have formulas built into them that are referencing the amount of siding square footage and then the brick square footage as well. But because I've built these parameters directly into these formulas, I'm going to find them on this list up top. So you can see here I have my exterior walls, and under that I have my siding square feet and my brick square feet preset with colors that are familiar to me and will allow me to visually understand the difference when I'm looking at a set of plans. So when I save this, notice how my quantities are currently set to TBD. It's because I don't have a value for that siding and for the brick yet. But if I skip directly over to my plans, then I can go in here and I can start drawing. So for the exterior walls, I'm going to open this up, and let's say I want to start measuring my siding square footage first. So I'm going to skip directly into my elevations here, and it may be tempting to start measuring your siding and measuring your brick, but before you do, what's very, very important is that you first set the scale. So setting the scale is essentially saying this distance on my PDF is equivalent to this real life measurement. So to do this, we're going to click this set scale button. I would recommend first zooming into a section on your page, because there's different ways that you can set the scale. Many pages are going to come with a preset scale, and that's what I'm going to default to here. But if you happen to have a set of plans where you can see an exact measurement, the alternative option here is just to manually set the scale. It's a very easy process. You would click select points, and then you're going to draw from one point to another. And then based off what the plans are telling you, you're just going to type in the distance. And so from here, maybe it's 20 feet, 3 inches, click update, and I have roughly a 3/16 to a foot scale set. Again, this is the route you can go if you don't have the actual scale defined on your plans, and just know that this is an alternative option. I'm actually going to lean towards the preset scale because I have it listed right here, and so mine is 1/8 of an inch is equivalent to a foot, so I'm going to set that here. And if you ever just want to double check and just make sure you're good to go, you have this ruler option here that allows you to click and drag from one point to another, and it will spit out the actual footage based off your scale, and assuming that's correct, you're good to go. You can click stop. You can choose to leave that ruler there just as a point of reference, or you can choose to remove it as well. But once your scale is set, that's a very important part of this, now you're good to start measuring. So let's kind of scroll down to the area that we care most about. Let's focus on this middle elevation for the time being, and let's do a very simple example. I'm just going to measure this left-hand side, and then maybe for the brick, I'm going to measure this area here too. So let's start with the siding. To start, again, just hover over the quantity. This is currently TBD. Click there, and now I can start selecting points. A very important part of this right here is the polyline option, which I'm currently on. This allows me to select certain points And for odd shapes, it allows me kind of to bump around the corners and select each individual point. For a lot of use cases, this is the preferred route. If you ever run into perfect shapes, rectangles, squares, things like that, just know you can switch and choose the square option as well, which I'll show you in just a moment. Here at this point, I'm pretty much done with my measurement. I could click this last point to complete the circle in a sense. Otherwise, you can just hit enter on your keyboard and that's going to finalize the measurement as well. What's really cool about this is that you're not limited to just that one area. I can then scroll over and I can measure another area. So let's use that square option for now. Let's just take this section right here, and you can see I'm contributing to the existing measurement. Just know you have the option to do a brand new measurement here as well. It's totally up to you if you want to include that as one number or separate those numbers or those measurements as well. I'm going to skip over to my brick right now, and if I click here to begin that measurement, notice it skipped over. It defaulted to the rectangle as well because I just used that. And now I'm just going to click and drag all of my brick on this side of the house. And voila, I have 168 square feet. From here though, I have a clear obstruction. I have this window in the way. So what's really nice is you can do this negative measurement, select the entire area of the window, and you'll see immediately my square footage drops. And so this tool is really good for handling those obstructions. And a really nice feature is if you go to the select tool, I can choose that, I can copy and paste it multiple times. So if you have several windows, maybe they're the same size, you can just drag that across, put those in the right spot, increase or decrease the size as needed as well, all of which will affect your existing measurement too. So really helpful for things like side of the house, removing windows and doors, things like that. But effectively, at this point, I have my measurements. I have 173 square feet of siding, I have 119 square feet of brick. So if I save, the value of all of this goes back to my budget. Before I leave this drawing and before I show you the fruits of our labor here, I just wanted to mention two more things. Hotkeys. So I referenced a couple hotkeys throughout, hitting enter to finalize a measurement, doing the shift function on your keyboard to make sure you're drawing perfect lines. But if you hold shift and hit the question mark, this will give you a series of hotkeys that make building out these measurements just so much quicker. Definitely something that if you're going to be using this tool a lot, I think you'll find a lot of benefit from. Additionally, you have a right click option. So this is for very quickly doing things like switching the mode that you're in, creating a new parameter or measurement, or using that ruler option as well. Now that we've kind of walked through this, kind of shown you the basics of drawing, we have a siding square footage, we have a brick square footage, so we can really see the value of this back in our budget. So if we skip back to that tool, notice how all of my quantities are now set. They're all set because the two measurements I was really looking for, which is the brick square footage and the siding square footage, have been set, and all of these items were based off that. So things like the siding installation labor, now I know I'm going to be doing this for 3 hours. I have 10 hours of work on the masonry side, and now I have my material takeoff as well. So this is just one example of how the on-screen takeoff tool can be used. There's a lot of power here. There's a lot of different use cases, from building decks to concrete to drywall to paint to pools, even full home remodels and new builds. But effectively, the goal here is to ditch the other systems, ditch the pen and paper, upload the plans to JobTread, do the measurements there. This can be tied in with your budget so it can immediately spit out the takeoff for the job, and effectively allowing you to build these estimates more accurately and a lot quicker as well. So that's the goal with all this. So any questions you have about this, definitely reach out to our support team. We also are going to have more in-depth training on our help desk, but you're more than welcome to reach out. I appreciate you watching. Thank you so much. Have a good day.